So this is the video for your Lyddie body paragraphs, and we're going to talk about how to write your paragraph, and I'll give you an example. The first part of a body paragraph is always the claim, the gist, the topic sentence, the focus statement, whatever you want to call it. It's the sentence where you explain what the big idea of that paragraph is going to be. So for my first sentence in my Lyddie body paragraph, I say, one reason Lyddie should sign the petition is because the girls who work at the factory do not have health insurance, and working 10 hours would decrease her chances of getting sick and injured. So I've made it very clear in my topic sentence what my reason is for Lyddie to sign the petition. These reasons should be coming off of the organizer you made about should she sign the petition, yes or no, whichever side you chose. So I took my first reason, I wrote it into a sentence, and I made it very clear what my first reason is. Then the next thing I need to do is I need to give evidence. As always in our body paragraphs, each piece of evidence is going to need three things. You have to give context, which means where it comes from in the book. You need to give a quote or specific detail. Quotes are best whenever possible. And then you need to analyze or explain the quote. And you always have to make sure that your analysis and explanation go back to the reason. So this is what my first piece of evidence looks like. I give context. I say the importance of this is seen when Betsy gets sick and goes to the hospital. So that tells you where this is coming from in the book. Now I'm going to give you my quote. When Lyddie visits, Betsy tells her, "You've got to get me out of here. They'll bleed me of every penny I've saved." So that's the specific quote. Then I end it by analyzing it and explaining why this quote shows that Lyddie should sign the petition for 10 hours. So it says, Betsy's afraid that she'll lose all of her money paying hospital bills, and it's exactly what happens to her. If Lyddie were to work a 10-hour day, she would have less of a chance of this happening to her. So I'm very clear about explaining how the quote shows that Lyddie should sign the petition because 10 hours would be better for her. Then my second piece of evidence is the same exact thing. I give my context. Another example of this problem is when Lyddie gets sick with fever, so that's where it comes from in the book. Then I give you my quote. The text says Dr. Morris was summoned. Lyddie tried to protest. She couldn't waste money on doctors, so that's my specific quote. And notice that I'm always putting the page numbers in as well. And then I go ahead and I explain it. Even though Lyddie was so sick that she couldn't even stand, she still didn't want a doctor because the cost was too high. This is dangerous to her health, and if she worked 10 hours, she would have less chance of getting sick because she would get more rest. So again, I'm being very specific to explain how signing the petition would help her based on that quote. Finally, my last example. A final example is when Lyddie was injured by the shuttle, so that's giving you the context of where it comes from in the book. And then it goes on and says, when the machines were sped up, Lyddie was exhausted by her work. In the midst of her exhaustion, Lyddie made a mistake and now here comes the quote, before she could think, she was on the floor, blood pouring through the hair near her right temple, the blasted shuttle. That's my quote, and then I go on to explain it. Diana sent for the doctor, and Lyddie was at risk of losing money again. If Lyddie worked 10 hours, she would have less chance of making a mistake like this. So that's all of my evidence. Now keep in mind that I've told you that each body paragraph needs to have at least 2 pieces of evidence. I used 3, but you need at the very least 2 pieces of evidence. Now we get to move on to our concluding sentence, and this will end our paragraph. So my concluding sentence looks like this. In conclusion, signing the petition for 10 hours is in Lyddie's best interest because it can help her to stay healthy and avoid losing all of her hard-earned money on doctor's bills because there is no health insurance. So I come back to the claim about the no health insurance thing, and I make sure it's very clear that working 10 hours would be better for her. So that is what the body paragraph is going to look like. Now it's time for you to go get to work on your first body paragraph, so choose your first reason off of your organizer and then get started. Good luck.
Created using Powtoon.